continue avec la semaine de la blockchain africaine. We are continuing with central bank digital currencies, looking at how the international experience can have African applications. We are going to have a panel on the subject led by Raffo, who is the sales and marketing lead for ChainSecurity. Mr. Raffo is going to be joined in this by Dr. Oriol Caudevilla, who is a management consultant and AirHelp fellow with the Digital Euro Association. We also welcome Chivunga, who is the CEO with Global Policy House and an advisor to the African Union. As well, Mohamed Bazzi is going to be joining us. Ms. Bazzi is the Deputy Head of Digital Transformation with the bank Al-Maghrib. So please.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us in this Africa Blockchain Week. Today, we have an amazing panel. We're going to talk about central bank digital currency, an international experience for an African application. My name is Emilie Raffo. I lead marketing and sales at ChainSecurity, and we have amazing panelists today. We have Mohamed Bazzi, who made us the honor of joining us. He is the deputy head of the organization and digital transformation department at Bank Al-Maghrib, which is the central bank of Morocco. We also have Dr. Oriol Caudevilla, who's a management consultant at AirHelp and also a fellow at the Digital Euro Association. And finally, we have Chivunga, who is the CEO of Global Policy House and an advisor to the African Union. We could not have a better panel to discuss the state of CBDCs in Africa today. So maybe, just to begin with, could you guys tell us a little bit, what is your connection to CBDCs? Why are you talking about CBDCs today? Maybe Michelle, would you like to start?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Emily. It's a real pleasure to be here. Our connection to CBDC, we've been doing quite a lot of research, especially looking at the impact of digital money across the world, but more specifically in emerging markets, especially in Africa, and trying to understand actually, is there any opportunities, are there any risks around CBDC for Africa, especially that Africa now has shifted into a single market with the continental free trade area. So we've really been investing in looking at the future of money within the continent.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe Dr. Oriol, would you like to continue?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Emily, and all of you for having me today. It's a pleasure to share the stage with you. And when it comes to my experience on the area of CBDCs, well, as I said before, I'm currently a fellow at the Digital Euro Association, where we do research on this topic. But aside from that, I've been also doing research on the digital yuan, which is actually my main area of interest right now, for quite a few years, like talking at universities, especially in Asia, Hong Kong, mainland China, also giving training to banks and companies on this topic. So I've been involved in this area for quite a few years.
Amazing, thank you so much. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Mohamed Bazzi from Bank Al-Maghrib. Would you like to tell us what is your connection to CBDCs?
Yeah, thank you first of all for inviting me, and it's my pleasure to be part of this panel. As a central bank, obviously we are interested in CBDC, and we are looking at what's considered as maybe a big game changer for the central bank. And we have installed last month a special committee, we call it the MDBC committee, to investigate the CBDC, how it can maybe meet our fundamental mission for central bank, and also maybe for public policies.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I think, you might be the best person to explain to us a little bit more, what are CBDCs and how are they different from other types of money?
Yeah, maybe just a very simple definition is the CBDC will be an electronic form of central bank money that can be used by ordinary user, for general purpose, and to make a payment and also to store value. So we are talking about central bank money, or maybe, for example, the cash. The CBDC will, for example, provide the same benefit as a cash, let's say safety, universal access, resilience, privacy, but in electronic format. That means can be used for online transaction in different point of sale. It can be used using mobile phone, wallet, maybe using some specific devices, maybe secure token, maybe now we are talking even about using connected watches. So maybe really it's a good big innovation in that way. And maybe just to put the CBDC really in the, let's say, in the field of the existing money, I maybe just to share with you one illustration
that would be amazing.
very interesting.
Perfect.
And
I see your screen.
do you see this? Okay,
yes.
maybe just to put it, as I said, in the existing kind of money, we have the three kind of money that really has legal tender and that is direct claim either against the central bank or the commercial bank. But let's first of all begin with the banknotes that we use it for our day-to-day. We can say that banknote is first of all a direct claim on central bank, because it's issued by central bank, it's guaranteed by central bank, and it has the characteristic to be universal access. We have also the central bank money that is in our bank account, that we use it for our online transaction and also for mobile payments. And this is a direct claim against commercial bank. It's in electronic forms at its universal access. So obviously there is many guarantee that guarantee the protection of consumer. We have maybe another we have another special central bank money that not really known by the general public, is the central bank reserve that are used by different financial institutions in their transaction. And this money is issued by the central bank. It is a direct claim on the central bank. That's in form of electronic. Really the characteristic of CBDC, and when we are talking about retail CBDC, that means the CBDC that can be used by general purpose. I will not go through the difference between retail and wholesale CBDC, but let's really concentrate on retail CBDC. We can see that CBDC has the three characteristics. That means it's issued by the central bank. That means it's a direct claim against the central bank. It's universal access, and it's in electronic format. That's really the big characteristic of retail CBDC. Maybe I will stop there, and looking forward for questions.
Thank you very much. That is really interesting to see, because it's indeed, you don't know, because when I use my credit card, it's already electronic money. So where do CBDCs come from? But I think this really shows that you don't need a commercial bank to have electronic money in the case of CBDC. Is that what it is? Am I fair in saying that?
Okay, it will complement, because I will after that talking about opportunities and the risk. CBDC is not here to replace or to make let's say some distribution on the existing system payments, but it will be coexist with other type of money. But let's talking about afterward with the opportunities, with maybe some three principle and
okay, yeah, okay, so it's that. Okay, thank you. So it's not there to replace, it's there to complement, but then we'll talk about it more. Okay, thank you very much.
What is really very interesting is this three characteristic. That means guarantee by central bank. So that's direct claim against the central bank, universal access, and really in electronic format. That means that can be used in online transaction, point of sale, and so on.
All right, thank you very much, Mohamed. So talking about having, different type of digital currencies coexisting, I'd like to go to Oriol and ask you. So, we talk a lot about cryptocurrencies these days, but are they the same as CBDCs, or are they different, or one of them better than the other? Can you comment on that?
Sure. Well, basically, central bank digital currencies are not cryptocurrencies. And I think it's very important to remark that, because it's actually very common to hear or read in the media, like some people referring to CBDCs as cryptocurrencies. I mean, I even saw many journalists talking about the digital yuan as a crypto yuan, China's cryptocurrency, and that's actually not true. I mean, there are similarities, of course, between cryptocurrencies and CBDCs when it comes to their technicalities, so the technical aspects. I mean, for example, talking about digital yuan is going to use like both online and hardware wallets, which is something typical from cryptocurrencies, in the same way that, for example, digital yuan is going to use a two-key architecture system to secure transactions. So technically speaking, there might be similarities, but they are different concepts because of many reasons. But I would say that there are like two key reasons. The first one is the fact that there is like a different rationale between them. While central bank digital currencies, we just saw, are issued by a central bank because they are central bank money, but in a digital form, cryptocurrencies are actually the flagship of this movement known as DeFi, decentralized finance. So in other words, the idea behind CBDCs is that of that idea of control, because they are issued by a central bank, whereas the idea behind cryptocurrencies is precisely the opposite. I mean, people using cryptocurrencies are people who do not want to be part of this controlled system, to put it this way. So as you can see, the rationale behind both is completely the opposite. And then I think that to some extent we could say as well that they serve a different purpose, in the sense that while CBDCs are going to be nothing else but a digital version of the central bank money that we already have, so we will be making payments with them, etc., as we just saw in Mohamed's thorough explanation. Cryptocurrencies are they can be used, of course, for making payments. I mean, some people do it, some companies offer those services, but generally speaking, they are still widely regarded as an investment asset class, but to many people. So as we can see, that the rationale, the purposes behind are different. So this is why you asked me as well, Emilie, whether CBDCs are better than cryptos or cryptos better than CBDCs. I mean, that's actually impossible to reply, because to me those are different concepts. I mean, if you want for something if you're looking for something stable, there is no doubt that you need to go for CBDCs because they are central bank money. There is no risk of volatility. They are issued and regulated by a central bank. Whereas cryptocurrencies, they may offer, of course, as we know, high returns. I mean, we all saw this crazy surge in the price of Bitcoin lately. So of course, it's very possible to make much more money by investing in cryptos, but at the same time, there is this element of volatility, which is a huge risk actually, and there are also regulatory risks involved. So I think we're talking about different concepts actually.
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, in the word central bank digital currency, we have central right there in the name, whereas with cryptocurrencies, we talk more about decentralized currency. So already we can see this kind of paradox between the two. And then cryptocurrencies, maybe we can call them even crypto assets. Some people say that cryptocurrencies are not actually currencies and that they are assets. So thank you very, very much for this much needed clarification. So now let's move on to Michel Chivunga. So Michel, can you please tell us what's going on in the CBDC front in Africa? Have there, have projects been announced? Are there pilots? Are CBDCs in any way connected to the African Monetary Union or to the AFCFTA, so which is the African Continental Free Trade Area? What's going on, Michel?
No, thank you very much, Emilie. I think on the African side, it's very exciting, actually. Of course, we launched the CFTA that you referred to this year in January, and and the CFTA is really there to encourage interregional trade across the continent, and for African countries to trade with each other a lot more, and of course encourage more investment to come into Africa from across the world. So in terms of CBDC, I mean, there's a lot of momentum and discussion going on with central banks around Africa, on what their approach is around CBDC. Of course, the banks are exploring as well. I think some of the big banks, the central banks in Ghana, in Nigeria, there are conversations around actually how do we look at this area and what do we need to think about when we approach CBDC from an African context. So what are the, currently the discussions are more around actually what are the opportunities with CBDC. Is there opportunities, for example, to improve financial inclusion maybe on the continent? Can this be a way to improve payments systems across the continent? Can we create more competitive environment around payments? Can we ensure that, we have a payments and settlements infrastructure in place that could help facilitate the delivery of the CFTA, which I believe would probably the most the most important policy shift that the African continent has had. So there is quite a lot of, I think, sort of research, at the moment is more on the discovery stage, as we would say at Global Policy House, where the central banks are going in and doing quite a bit of research to understand the space and to be able to start to make some decisions around whether, should we be implementing or looking at doing a CBDC. Some countries, of course, again, are running sandboxes, to just start to test out the ideas around digital currencies. So I think that is actually a very good approach because there's still quite a lot of unanswered questions around central bank digital currencies generally around the world. So a lot of central banks are still very much in discovery and research and development phase. In Ghana, again, there's a lot of, exploring around actually what does CBDC actually mean in the context of Ghana. But then we also have issues around trying to understand if we are to introduce a CBDC in each of the African countries, for example, how are they going to interrelate with each other, especially that we are pushing for that interoperability across nations, and ensuring that, countries can trade and work together better. So there is quite a lot of activity. Most of the countries are starting to have the conversations. I think, central banks, and then even regionally as well, if you look at the ECOWAS region, we've always had, some conversations around, okay, what is maybe a potential ECO, look like for that region? Or if you look at the monetary union you talked about, which is really more around spurring, harmonizing policies and regulation and currency. And having that debate and analysis to see whether that has opportunities. But at the end of the day, I think the conversation is very much around actually, is this going to destabilize, opportunities to ensure financial stability, which is really, really important for central banks. I mean, one of their roles for central banks is actually to ensure that strong financial stability within economies. And of course, we're coming out of COVID now, and post-COVID recovery is really important. So ensuring that we have stability within the financial markets is very, very important. So that conversation is still going on as we're looking at new innovations. We have shifted into a digital and token economy, absolutely, in the world. But at the same time, I think in Africa, we also have to consider that, there is kind of bigger issues that we have to think about, including, how do we recover post-COVID? How do we ensure this financial stability? If CBDC presents an opportunity, to create more stability and encourage maybe financial inclusion, especially for the unbanked, then, there's massive opportunities there, but there definitely is some discovery going on.
Okay, amazing. Thank you very much. So it seems like it's very active, that the opportunity has been identified, and now the discussions are going on as how Africa is going to move forward with this. This is amazing to hear. Thank you. So going back to you, Mohamed, can you tell us a bit more about the opportunities of CBDCs, and especially for African countries?
Yeah. But maybe before going through the opportunities, I would just to share with you the three fundamental principles that has been mentioned in an interesting report from last year from 6 major central bank and with also BIS. And this report is we titled the Central Bank Digital Currency Fundamental Principle and Core Future. And really, this report mention that, yes, the central bank has a common mandate for monetary and financial stability, but depending in the jurisdiction and requirement, maybe policy choices can differ. But still, we have three fundamental to be taken in consideration when talking about CBDC. The first one is that do no harm. That's really an important principle. Any new form of money supplied by the central bank should continue supporting the fulfillment of public policy objective and should not interfere or impede the central bank ability to carry out its mandate for monetary and financial stability. So really, the CBDC needs to fulfill this principle, do no harm. There are two other one I will maybe go through faster. The coexistence, that also the second principle that are mentioned in this report, and in the sense that different type of central bank money, in that case, CBDC or maybe existing cash reserve, should complement each other and coexist really with commercial bank money, as I mentioned in the beginning of the panel, to support really public policy objectives. And central bank should continue providing and support cash as long as there is sufficient public demand on it. Maybe the third foundational principle is about innovation and efficiency. So we need to support as a central banker the innovation and the competition, and not really to rely only on the less safe financial instrument. Those two principles in this report are very interesting. And now for the opportunities, talking about opportunities, we can talk about benefits. We can also talk what is the real problem to be resolved and how CBDC can be part of the solution and maybe the solution, knowing that there are other payment system like mobile payment and all the existing payment system that can be used. And again, this is really depends on each country, depends on each policy choices and objective. For Africa, I think we share mainly what is really what we can find in many publications, many speeches. The first one definitely is financial inclusion. CBDC can really improve financial inclusion and really to complement the existing payment system like mobile payment, and also fast payment for some cases. The second maybe opportunity is really to minimize the cost of cash, and really for vast country or with multiple small islands, it will really have a benefit and really to reduce the cost of the cycle, the cash cycle management. Maybe this general, not really specific for Africa, but really keep some monetary sovereignty and keep central bank competitive with private alternative. We know that there is a lot of innovation that come in with crypto assets, and really need to have this alternative to countering the new digital currency. We see in some paper also really, as I said, to be in and maybe to support some specific innovative use cases. And here we no, not specific for our country, but worldwide. One now really some cases using, for example, programmable money, using machine-to-machine payment, using supporting IoT economy, Internet of Things economy. There really some use cases that are now emerging. Now, for maybe something that can really benefit for our country is really to support reducing the impact of unstructured economy, and maybe to reduce the using the cash in such unstructured economy, something that can be also very benefit for our country here and for Africa, and to support the public policy in this regard. Also, it will be a good and let's say not a cheaper way to have what we call it, the government person payment going really to vulnerable to social category, to vulnerable social category. And we see it with COVID-19 that even the banknote was really restricted, and also the check, and for some really some social vulnerable social category need to have help, aid directly from government, and maybe CBDC can be also a way to have this aid directly transferred to this category of population, knowing that we have maybe more people having mobile phone but not bank account. That's something characterize maybe our countries. So let me stop here about the opportunities.
Very interesting.
There are many, but I think that this the main ones.
Thank you very much. That is really interesting. You know, it makes me think of something that I read, you know, about the social aid. I think it was a program by the United Nations that was providing social aid for, I think it was in Niger, but I'm not sure. So it was an African country. And on average, the recipients, the beneficiaries of that aid, since it was given in cash, had to travel for on average 30 hours, 30, in order to get to the place where they could receive the aid. So this is really, I mean, it would be a complete game changer if this could be done easily on a mobile phone or something like that. And that could foster financial inclusion as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I talk about financial inclusion. This let's say special social matter of how CBDC can help on that, but also innovation. We need to be in as African country. We really need to reduce the gap in terms of technology, and really it's maybe a great occasion to have this to have our country in, and really to be able to also to implement some innovative use cases. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. So while we are on the topic of financial inclusion, I think, Oriol, you're also kind of very knowledgeable about this topic. Can you tell us in more detail how CBDCs could bring financial inclusion, and kind of, you know, what impact could it have?
Sure. I think that among all the possible benefits that CBDCs may have, I mean, we mentioned some of them, like using them as a monetary policy tool, fighting financial crime. I feel like promoting financial inclusion is undoubtedly one of the most important ones. Financial inclusion is, of course, a very important area, like worldwide, but especially in Africa or other regions like India, Bangladesh, Southeast Asia, are those areas where I feel like both CBDCs and virtual banking may actually make like a bigger impact. I mean, financial inclusion is a very tricky topic. Actually, it's a difficult phenomenon. It's very challenging because it may have like different causes. There might be like different roots, no, behind that lack of inclusion. I mean, in some cases, the main barrier to financial inclusion is the lack of money. I mean, this when we talk about this case, then a CBDC may not make such a big difference, because if someone is unbanked because that person lacks any kind of money whatsoever, a CBDC or a virtual bank will not make much difference. But it is in those cases where the people have some money, and they actually have, for example, a cell phone or a laptop, but what they lack is simply access to a physical bank branch. So it is in those cases where CBDCs may actually make much more difference, have much more of an impact. And when we talk about financial inclusion, well, we're talking about actually something that affects the lack of financial inclusion affects many people. I mean, according to the World Bank's global Findex database, over 1.7 billion people worldwide are unbanked. I mean, we're talking about actually a huge figure. The country with the highest unbanked population is China, but India follows. And when we talk about Africa, actually, I mean, as far as I know, there's like over 370 million unbanked people, at least, no, as per the official figures. So we see that it's true that in those cases where these people are unbanked because of lack of money, ACBC might not make so much of an impact, but it is in those cases where, as I said before, those individuals, those people have some money. I mean, even though it's few, as long as they have some money and access to a cell phone or a laptop, it's in there where there might be like an impact. And I think that CBDCs are actually one of the biggest like tools these years to come when it comes to promoting financial inclusion. And this is why I feel like, as I always say, a digital euro, for example, might be important and interesting in Europe. I mean, I'm not saying that it won't be interesting if eventually deployed, but I feel like it is in those countries, like sub-Saharan countries in Africa or India, as I said before, Pakistan, Bangladesh. It's in those countries where the unbanked population is so high, where a CBDC can actually or will actually in the future like show its full potential, because it's not just going to be like a tool to make payments much more efficient, but it's also going to be a tool that will allow many people theoretically to become banked, to become part of the financial system. So I think that's actually a huge impact that they may have.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a huge impact, but also, Michelle, it's a big impact in terms of how the countries can, operate together, how you can have cross-border trade, how Africa, can be this. Basically, is there a possibility that it would be kind of like the European Union in Africa? How do you see cross-border trade with this new CBDC innovation?
Yeah, no, I see it as quite transformational, actually, because, what we have in trade is everything. Us interacting with each other, us doing business with our neighbors and our different countries is what, brings bread and butter to the table. We've seen through COVID, the challenges we had with supply chains, right? Trying to get equipment and PPE and all that. So, trade and the supply chain is very, very important. And I think as we move ahead, we need to be able to have liquidity that flows quite easily and currency that flows quite easily within those trade circles, right? So I think with CBDC, there's massive opportunities for actually to almost kind of digitize currency. And by digitizing currency, then you're opening up opportunities. You're making it actually more inclusive, which for me is quite exciting. The fact that, I can have instant payments done because of CBDC. And the fact that I can be able to, interact with, I'm sitting here in Dubai right now, and I can maybe do business with somebody in South Africa or in Somalia, right? Without me even having to move, right? Is absolutely fundamental and important. And I think it's the future, right? We are digitizing. We are looking at digitalization as a whole. So, even central banks, I think, are coming in and are being innovative by looking at CBDC and creating an opportunity for cross-border interaction. Obviously, today we haven't touched so much around wholesale CBDC, but even with wholesale CBDC, it's really, really important that we can have those systems in place where we can have, make sort of instant settlements, right? When we are trading across different borders. In order for that to happen, I think it's very important that as we design the central bank digital currencies, we have in mind that actually we need to make sure that, these can interoperate with the domestic infrastructure systems that we have in the countries. So the design of the CBDC itself is really important. And back to the comments made from the central bank here today, it's important to look at it at country level, and understand the structures and the characteristics within different countries, right, will matter. But if in Africa, we're trying to promote the free trade, area and that continental flow of goods and services, I think CBDC can certainly play a significant role in ensuring we have currency flowing across the continent, but we do have to make sure that we have interoperability embedded. And that means we have to have also quality data. How do we manage that data? How do we ensure that it's secure? So for me, I think CBDC, really should be robust, as in the infrastructures that are built must be robust, must be secure, must protect the information and the data that is, used. And then, of course, it must be inclusive and must be accessible. So there's no point of having a CBDC that people cannot use or cannot access, or they don't know how to access, or you can't distribute, or the system itself is not going to be secure, has down points at some points. That is not going to work. That's very different from physical cash. So I can see a scenario where we're going to have a hybrid situation where you have, the cash system still being very available and still being demanded by certain categories of our societies. And then, of course, you can have that digital version. So I think we're going to see a transition as we move forward. And we have to ensure that in the countries that we have that kind of hybrid system to begin with. Because in some economies, people are still very used to having cash, and might not transition straight away into this digital currency. So that has to be taken into consideration. But I see it as a massive, massive opportunity to actually open up, cross-border trade, and opportunities to actually improve trade and access to trade finance as well, right? Because we are kind of digitizing currency. So I think very exciting.
Thank you very much. So guys, it seems like, we've been talking about how amazing CBDCs are, like there's only benefits to it, but and we don't have that much time left. We only have 4 minutes left. So in 4 minutes, can we try to talk very quickly about the various risks of CBDCs, and especially for African countries? Maybe Mohamed, you'd like to go first?
Yes. Okay. For the risk, as I said, really it's a game changer. So benefit, but as you mentioned, with a number of risks, and okay, it's maybe the same risk as maybe the other countries. But definitely the first one is the risk of banking disintermediation. That's something that we really many publication. And here, in case of people decide to hold the CBDC in a significant or maybe a large volume, so that with the commercial banking deposit could be drawn from commercial bank, and it will really impact the bank in terms of financial their activity, and maybe as a side effect, maybe can have bank to be obliged to maybe to increase the interest rate, and that really the big let's say risk. And also we have the run risk. In time of crisis, bank customer could flee from deposit to CBDC, which might be seen as safer and more liquid. Maybe we have another risk regarding the central bank reputation, because here we are talking about electronic format, so it must be available, resilient, and here we need to have really an infrastructure that can resist, for example, to cyber cyber attacks, even if maybe central bank will not be in charge directly to managing this infrastructure, but still the central bank reputation may be affected by any let's say cyber attack, or maybe in term of not a platform resilience.
Okay, thank you very much. I think also, and I know Oriol, you're pretty specialized in that. I think there's also maybe a threat to privacy, right? If we have everything digital, everything available there, what happens to our privacy then?
Yes, actually, one of the main concerns expressed to me whenever I talk like universities or with banks is that of privacy. I mean, many people are worried that if CBDCs are going to allow central banks to track like transactions much more efficiently to fight financial crime and so on and so forth, that may mean as well that people will lose their privacy. But I think people shouldn't be that worried about that, because there is actually the right technology, to ensure this balance, to ensure that people's privacy is actually respected. So it's all about technology. The adequate architecture and technology behind CBDCs may and will allow, I'm sure, central banks to find a balance between this need to fight financial crime, of course, and track transactions in order to look for the illicit ones, to put it this way, whilst protecting and ensuring that people's privacy is well respected. So I think the key point in here is that one. I mean, technology, using the right technology in order to achieve privacy and secure privacy.
All right, thank you very much. And that's all the time we have today. Thank you very much, guys. So we had Mohamed Bazzi, the Deputy Head of the Organization and Digital Transformation Department at Bank Al-Maghrib. Thank you very much, Mohamed. We had Dr. Oriol, thank you. We had Dr. Oriol Caudevilla, Management Consultant at AirHelp and Fellow at Digital Euro Association. Thank you, Oriol. And we had Michelle, thank you, and Michelle Chivunga, the CEO of Global Policy House and advisor to the African Union. See you soon, guys. Bye.
Bye.